Hello, and welcome to Nightlight Science Stories. Today, we stand at the edge of the ultimate frontier. It is a boundary that every single human being who has ever lived must eventually cross. It is the moment the heart stops beating, the lungs draw their final breath, and the brain goes dark. For millennia, what happens next has been the domain of theology and philosophy. Science stayed silent, viewing death as a simple off switch for consciousness. But in the last few decades, that silence has been broken by the voices of millions. Due to advances in resuscitation technology, people are coming back from the dead more frequently than ever before. And many of them are bringing back stories, remarkably consistent stories, of what they saw on the other side. Today, we look at the phenomenon near-death experiences, NDEs, through the lens of science and mystery. To understand an NDE, we must first define death. Clinically, death occurs when the heart stops pumping blood. Within 10 to 20 seconds of cardiac arrest, brain activity as measured by an EEG goes flat. There is no electrical activity that we associate with consciousness, memory, or sensory perception. According to our current understanding of neurobiology, a flatline brain should produce absolutely nothing. No dreams, no hallucinations, just oblivion. Yet, this is precisely when the impossible happens. Patients report experiences that are not dreamlike or hazy, but are often described as more real than real. They speak of hyperlucid thoughts, intense visual perception, and profound emotional states, all occurring during a window of time when their biological hardware for generating consciousness is effectively turned off. This is the central paradox of the NDE. The experience often begins with an out-of-body experience, or OBE. Survivors report a sudden sensation of floating upwards. They look down and see their own lifeless body being worked on by doctors. They describe the scene with uncanny accuracy, noting specific medical instruments used, the conversations of the staff, and even details like the pattern on the floor tiles or what was happening in the hallway outside the room. This veridical perception, seeing things that are verified to have happened while the person was clinically dead, is the hardest part for materialist science to explain. How can eyes that are closed and a visual cortex that is deprived of oxygen process complex visual information from a vantage point near the ceiling? It suggests that consciousness might not be locked inside the skull. Following the OBE, many report being pulled rapidly through a dark space, often described as a tunnel, a void, or a valley. This is a transitional phase, moving from the physical realm to something else. At the end of this tunnel, a light appears. It is usually described as blindingly bright, brighter than the sun, yet it does not hurt the eyes to look at it. It is magnetic, pulling the consciousness towards it. This tunnel and light motif is so common it has become a cultural cliché. However, its consistency across different cultures and age groups is staggering. Children who have not yet been exposed to religious concepts report the same tunnel. Atheists report the same light. It seems to be a universal human experience wired into the process of dying, transcending our earthly beliefs. As they approach the light, many report encountering beings. These are often described as deceased relatives, friends, or sometimes unidentified beings of light that radiate an overwhelming sense of unconditional love and acceptance. The emotional impact of this reunion is profound. The fear of death evaporates, replaced by a feeling of ultimate safety and coming home. Communication in this state is almost always described as telepathic. There are no spoken words. Thoughts are exchanged instantly and completely. There is no possibility of misunderstanding or deception. It is a direct mind-to-mind connection that feels far superior to clumsy human language. The beings often act as guides, welcoming the traveler, but sometimes telling them that is not yet their time. Perhaps the most transformative part of an NDE is the life review. In a flash that feels outside of linear time, the person re-experiences every moment of their life. But it is not just a movie. They relive the events while simultaneously feeling the emotions of the people they interacted with. They feel the pain they caused others, and they feel the joy they brought. This is an instantaneous, panoramic judgment, but it is rarely described as being judged by an external God. Instead, it is a rigorous self-judgment, viewed through the lens of total empathy. The lesson brought back is almost always the same, that the most important thing in life is how we treat others, and that love is the fundamental fabric of existence. Eventually, the experiencer reaches a boundary. It might manifest as a river, a fence, a gate, or simply an intuitive knowing that to cross this line means there is no going back to the physical body. This is the point of no return. It is here that they are either told they must return to complete their earthly mission, or they are given a choice. Surprisingly, many do not want to come back. The peace and love they experience there are so intense that their broken, often painful physical bodies seem unappealing. The return to the body is often described as a violent, unpleasant shock, like plunging into ice water or being squeezed into a tiny, heavy suit. They wake up back in the hospital, forever changed. These elements, the tunnel, the light, the life review, are not modern inventions. We find echoes of them in the oldest texts of humanity. The Egyptian Book of the Dead describes the soul facing the judgment where their heart is weighed against a feather, similar to the life review's ethical weighing. Plato's Republic ends with the myth of a soldier who dies in battle and returns 10 days later to recount a journey through the afterlife that mirrors modern NDE reports. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, or Bardo Thodol, is essentially a guidebook for the dying consciousness, describing stages of light, peaceful and wrathful deities, and the eventual rebirth. It seems that for as long as humans have been dying, they have been experiencing the structured, consistent journey that our ancestors tried to map out using the mythology of their time. But science demands a material explanation. For the skeptic, these experiences are not evidence of an afterlife, but rather the final, chaotic fireworks of a dying brain. The leading scientific theory centers on cerebral hypoxia, a lack of oxygen. As oxygen levels plummet, the brain's visual cortex begins to fail, which could create the tunnel vision effect. Furthermore, the immense stress of dying causes the brain to flood itself with neurotransmitters like endorphins and serotonin, which are natural painkillers and mood elevators. This chemical cocktail could explain the feelings of peace, euphoria, and the sensation of floating. The brain, in a desperate attempt to protect itself from the trauma of death, might be generating a comforting hallucination. This sets the stage for the great debate we will explore in this documentary. Is the near-death experience a glimpse into a genuine spiritual reality that awaits us all? Or is it merely a biological artifact, the last dream of a biological machine running out of power? In the next section, we will dive deep into the skeptical arguments. We will look at the dying brain hypothesis, the role of the temporal lobes in generating mystical experiences, and the strange similarities between NDEs and psychedelic drug trips, specifically DMT. We must rigorously test the materialist explanations before we can embrace the mystical ones. Stay with us. The most formidable challenge to the spiritual interpretation of NDEs comes from neurophysiology. The dying brain hypothesis argues that every element of the experience, the tunnel, the light, the euphoria, can be replicated by a brain under severe stress. It starts with hypoxia, or oxygen deprivation. As the heart stops, blood flow to the eyes ceases first. The retina is highly sensitive to oxygen loss. As the peripheral vision fails due to lack of blood, the visual field narrows. The center remains active the longest. This creates a natural tunnel effect. What looks like a portal to the afterlife might simply be the biological shutdown of the eye itself. The bright light at the end could be the final, random firing of the visual cortex neurons as they are starved of fuel, creating a phosphine explosion. We have evidence for this in living subjects. Fighter pilots undergoing high G training often experience G-LOC, G-force-induced loss of consciousness. As blood is drained from their brains by gravity, many report tunnel vision, seeing a bright light, and feeling a sense of floating or detachment from their bodies. These are healthy men, not dying patients, yet they reproduce the core visual components of an NDE. Dr. James Winery studied over 500 pilots who experienced G-LOC. He found that along with the tunnel vision, they often reported dreamlets, short, vivid hallucinations involving family members or strange landscapes. This suggests that the tunnel is not a gateway to heaven, but a specific failure mode of the human visual system when it runs out of oxygen. But what about the profound spiritual feelings? For that, neuroscientists point to the temporal lobes, specifically the right temporal lobe. This area is often called the God spot. In the 1980s, Dr. Michael Persinger developed the God helmet, a device that used weak magnetic fields to stimulate the temporal lobes of healthy volunteers. Remarkably, up to 80% of participants reported sensing a presence in the room. Some felt God, others felt demons, or simply a vague entity standing behind them. This proved that the sensation of a spiritual presence can be induced artificially by manipulating the brain's electricity. If a dying brain experiences an electrical storm in the temporal lobes, similar to a seizure, it could generate God without God needing to be there. Then there is the chemistry. The feeling of leaving the body, OBE, is remarkably similar to the effects of dissociative anesthetics like ketamine. Ketamine works by blocking NDA receptors in the brain. When these receptors are blocked, the brain stops processing sensory input from the body. The mind unplugs from the physical vessel, creating a sensation of floating or hovering. In a dying brain, the body releases a flood of natural neurochemicals to protect itself from shock. Endogenous opioids and possibly ketamine-like peptides could be released in massive quantities. This chemical defense mechanism would explain the sudden absence of pain and the overwhelming feeling of peace. It is the brain's way of anesthetizing itself against the trauma of death. Perhaps the most controversial chemical candidate is DMT, dimethyltryptamine, known as the spirit molecule. Dr. Rick Strassman hypothesized that the pineal gland releases a massive dump of DMT at the moment of death. DMT is the most potent psychedelic known to man. Users report entering other dimensions, meeting machine elves or entities of light, and feeling a connection to a universal consciousness. The similarities between a high-dose DMT trip and an NDE are striking. Both involve a rapid exit from this reality, encounters with intelligent beings, and a feeling of more real than real. If the dying brain is indeed flooding itself with a naturally occurring psychedelic, then the afterlife might be the ultimate trip, a final beautiful hallucination generated by our own biology. Evolutionary psychology asks, why would we evolve to have a pleasant death? It offers the theory of thanatosis or feigning death. In the wild, when an animal is caught by a predator and escape is impossible, it often plays dead. This state of tonic immobility is accompanied by a disconnection from pain and reality. It is a survival strategy. If the predator thinks you are dead, it might loosen its grip, giving you a chance to escape. Perhaps NDEs are a vestige of this ancient survival mechanism. The dissociation, the peace, and the out-of-body viewpoint might be the brain's attempt to detach from the horror of being eaten or killed, essentially checking out to minimize suffering. What we interpret as a spiritual journey might just be the biological software for a painless exit running its course. Another suspect is REM intrusion. Our EM, rapid eye movement, is the sleep state where we dream. Usually, a switch in the brainstem paralyzes our muscles during REM so we don't act out our dreams. But in conditions like sleep paralysis or near death, this switch can now function. The dream state intrudes into wakefulness. Studies have shown that people who report NDE are more likely to have a history of REM intrusion phenomena in their daily lives. This suggests that their brains are predisposed to mixing states of consciousness. An NDE, therefore, could be a waking dream, a hybrid state where the person is biologically awake or dying, but neurologically dreaming, projecting internal imagery onto the external world. We must also consider blood gases. A study published in Critical Care found a correlation between higher levels of carbon dioxide, $Co_2, in the blood and the reporting of NDEs. High $Co_2 levels, hypercapnia, can cause hallucinations, feelings of detachment, and the perception of bright lights. As the heart fails, $Co_2 builds up rapidly in the bloodstream before circulation stops completely. For the materialist, this is a smoking gun. The light of God might simply be the visual artifact of carbon dioxide poisoning. It is a cold, physiological explanation that strips the experience of its mystical weight, reducing it to a gas imbalance. If NDEs were a view into an objective afterlife, shouldn't everyone see the same thing? Critics point out that the content of NDEs is often culturally conditioned. Christians tend to see Jesus or angels. Hindus often see Yamraj, the Lord of Death, and his messengers, Yamdoots. Children tend to see current friends or teachers rather than deceased relatives they never knew. This cultural variation suggests that the NDE is a construct of the individual's mind, built from their memories and expectations. The brain takes the chaotic firing of neurons and tries to make sense of it using the mythological library available to it. If you believe in pearly gates, your brain builds pearly gates. If you believe in a river, you see a river. It is a personalized hallucination, not a universal destination. The materialist arguments are strong. They offer logical, biological causes for almost every aspect of the NDE. However, they face a critical problem: timing. All these biological explanations, hallucinations, REM, hypoxia, require a functioning brain to happen. You need a cortex to hallucinate. You need neurons to fire to create a dream. But what happens when the NDE occurs after the brain is shut down? What happens when a patient reports accurate visual details of their surgery from a time when their eyes were taped shut and their EEG was completely flat? This is the veridical NDE, and it is the rock upon which the materialist ship crashes. In the next section, we will examine the case that defies all medical logic, the Pam Reynolds incident. To challenge the skeptics, we need a case where the dying brain explanation is impossible. Enter the case of Pam Reynolds. In 1991, Pam underwent a surgery for a giant basilar artery aneurysm. The location was so dangerous that standard surgery wouldn't work. The doctors, led by Dr. Robert Spessler, decided to use a procedure called hypothermic cardiac arrest. This procedure is famously known as Operation Standstill. They lowered Pam's body temperature to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 degrees Celsius. They stopped her heart, they stopped her breathing. And crucially, they drained the blood from her head. For all intents and purposes, Pam Reynolds was dead. Her brain waves were completely flat. There was no electrical activity to support a dream, let alone a complex hallucination. To monitor her brainstem and ensure she was completely unresponsive, doctors inserted molded speakers into her ears that played loud, rapid clicks, 100 decibels, like a jet engine repeatedly. Her eyes were taped shut. Her brain was drained of blood. Yet, during this precise period of clinical death, Pam reported popping out of the top of her head. She found herself floating near the surgical lights, looking down. She watched the surgeon holding a tool. Later, she described it perfectly. It looked like an electric toothbrush, and it had a dent in the case where the bits went. This was the Midas Rex bone saw, a tool she had never seen before. She also heard a female nurse say, "Her arteries are too small," referring to the femoral artery. This conversation happened while Pam was clinically dead, deafened by earplugs, and brain dead. The skeptics argue that she might have constructed these memories from sounds she heard while under light anesthesia before or after the flatline. But the medical records confirm that the conversation about the arteries and the use of the bone saw occurred during the standstill phase. How can a brain with no blood, no electrical activity, and blocked sensory inputs record and process visual and auditory data? The Pam Reynolds case is the white crow of NDE research, the single exception that disproves the rule. It suggests that consciousness is not a byproduct of brain activity, but something that can exist independently of it. It implies that the brain is not a generator of consciousness, but a receiver, and when the receiver breaks, the signal doesn't die. It just becomes ungrounded. This leads us to the transmission theory of consciousness. Materialist science assumes the brain creates the mind, just as a turbine creates electricity. If you destroy the turbine, the electricity stops. But what if the brain is more like a television set? The TV receives a signal to display the picture. If you smash the TV, the picture is gone, but the signal is still in the air. Under this model, death is simply the destruction of the television. The broadcast continues. This would explain why NDE patients report heightened awareness when their brain is down. Without the filter of the biological brain, which limits our perception to survive, the consciousness expands to access a wider bandwidth of reality, the signal in its pure form. But where does this signal come from? This brings us to the intersection of neuroscience and quantum physics. Sir Roger Penrose, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, and Dr. Stuart Hameroff proposed the ORCO-R, orchestrated objective reduction theory. They argue that consciousness does not happen in the chemical synapses between neurons, but deeper inside, within tiny structures called microtubules. Microtubules are the structural scaffolding of our cells. Penrose and Hameroff suggest that these tubes act as quantum computers. They process information at a quantum level, utilizing effects like superposition and entanglement. If consciousness is a quantum process, it is not bound by the classical laws of biology. It is bound by the laws of the universe itself. The implications are staggering. In quantum mechanics, information cannot be destroyed. It can only change form. If the soul is essentially quantum information stored in the microtubules, what happens when the heart stops? The quantum coherence in the brain breaks down. But the quantum information isn't destroyed. It leaks out. Dr. Hameroff states, when the heart stops, the microtubules lose their quantum state. The quantum information within them is not destroyed. It cannot be destroyed. And it just distributes and dissipates to the universe at large. This is the scientific equivalent of the soul leaving the body. If the patient is revived, the information snaps back into the microtubules. If not, it exists indefinitely as a pattern in the fabric of space-time. To test these theories, science has launched the AWARE study, Awareness During Resuscitation, led by Dr. Sam Parnia. It is the largest scientific study of death ever conducted. They placed specific images on high shelves in emergency rooms, images that could only be seen from the ceiling looking down. The goal, to catch a verifier. If a patient floats out of their body, they should see the hidden image. While they haven't yet had a patient clearly identify the hidden target, partly due to the chaos of your resuscitation, they have documented hundreds of cases of cognitive awareness during cardiac arrest. Parnia concludes that consciousness does not annihilate immediately after death. It persists for a period of time, minutes, maybe hours, in a state we do not yet understand. Another phenomenon that supports the brain as filter theory is terminal lucidity. This occurs in patients with severe dementia or Alzheimer's, whose brains are physically destroyed by the disease. They have been unresponsive or incoherent for years. Yet, shortly before death, many suddenly regain full clarity. They recognize family, speak rationally, and say goodbye. If the mind is purely a product of brain tissue, this should be impossible. A destroyed brain cannot repair itself in minutes. But if the brain is a filter, perhaps the process of dying damages the filter enough to let the signal shine through clearly one last time before the connection is severed completely. It suggests a person was never gone. They were just blocked. The mystery extends beyond the dying person. There are reported cases of shared death experiences where healthy loved ones, sitting at the bedside of the dying, report seeing the same light, the same mist leaving the body, or even accompanying the dying person partway through the tunnel. They are not dying. Their brains are not hypoxic, yet they share the vision. This shared hallucination, if that's what it is, challenges the isolation of the dying brain theory. It points towards a field of consciousness that connects us all, a field that becomes visible when the veil between life and death thins. It suggests that death is not a lonely extinction, but a communal transition event that ripples to the consciousness of those nearby. As we close this chapter on the mechanism of the soul, we are left with a new definition of death. It is not an event. It is a process. And it is a process that seems to involve the fundamental physics of the universe. The microtubules in our neurons might be the interface, the modem connecting our biological body to a cloud-based consciousness. In the next part of this documentary, we will leave the hospital room and travel to the specific destinations reported by these travelers. We will explore the life review in detail, the nature of the beings of light, and the darker side of NDEs, the hellish experiences that no one likes to talk about. The journey is far from over. The life review is the centerpiece of the near-death experience. It is not, as movies depict, a simple montage of your best moments. It is a total immersion. Survivors describe it as a holographic, 360-degree re-experiencing of every single second they were alive. Time ceases to exist. The birth, the childhood, and the death happen simultaneously in an eternal now. No detail is forgotten. But the visual aspect is secondary to the emotional one. In this state, You are not just the protagonist of your life. You are also the supporting cast. When you relive an argument, you don't just feel your anger. You feel the hurt you caused the other person. You are inside their mind, experiencing the consequences of your actions from their perspective. It is the ultimate lesson in empathy, enforced by the physics of the afterlife. This empathetic feedback loop reveals the ripple effect. Experiencers often report that the big moments they thought were important career success, money, fame appear insignificant here. Instead, the moments that shine the brightest are the small acts of kindness. A smile given to a stranger, a helping hand, a moment of listening. These create ripples of positivity that extend far beyond what we see on Earth. Conversely, small acts of cruelty, a snide comment, a moment of neglect feel like physical blows. One survivor described feeling the crushing weight of a disappointment he caused his child years ago, amplified by the child's hidden sorrow. This suggests that the universe records not just what we do, but how we make others feel. We are building our own heaven or hell, brick by brick, with our daily interactions. Despite the intensity of this review, there is rarely an external judge. The being of light usually stands beside the person, watching the review with them, radiating unconditional love. They do not condemn, they ask. A common question reported is, "What have you done with your life that is sufficient?" It is not a demand for achievement, but a question about growth and love. The judgment is self-inflicted. Faced with the undeniable truth of their actions and the pain they caused, the soul judges itself. The shame or pride is internal. This aligns with the free will principle. We are the creators of our reality, and in death, we become the reviewers of our creation. The purpose of the review seems to be educational, not punitive, a correction course for the soul's evolution. However, not every journey ends in the light. There is a forbidden chapter in NDE research, the distressing or hellish NDE. For decades, researchers underreported these cases, perhaps to avoid frightening the public, or because patients were too ashamed to share them. Current estimates suggest that between 14% to 23% of all NDEs are not blissful. They are terrifying. These negative experiences fall into three categories: the void, the hellish, and the inverse. They challenge the New Age narrative that death is always safe. Just as there are bad trips in psychedelics, there are bad trips in dying. Are these hallucinations of a guilty conscience, or is there a genuine lower realm of existence that some souls accidentally stumble into? The most common distressing type is the void. Here, there is no tunnel, no light, and no beings. There is only absolute darkness and absolute isolation. The individual exists as a point of consciousness in a vacuum, completely alone, forever. The terror here is existential. It is the fear that this is it, eternal boredom and loneliness. Survivors of the void describe it as being unplugged from the universe. Some interpret it as a waiting room or a purgatory where they must work through their attachments before moving on. Others view it as a confrontation with the self. When all distractions of the physical world are removed, you are left alone with your own mind. If you don't like your own company, the void is hell. Then there are the truly hellish experiences. These resemble the medieval descriptions of the underworld. Survivors report heat, fire, annoying noises, and being tormented by demonic entities or mocking faces. They describe a sense of descending, of being dragged down by a heavy gravity. The emotional tone is one of despair, mockery, and meaninglessness. Are these literal places, or are they archetypal projections? Carl Jung might argue that the dying brain unleashes the shadow self, the repressed, darker parts of our psyche. If a person carries deep guilt or fear, their consciousness might manifest these emotions as demons. The hell they see is the hell they carry inside them, projected onto the screen of the afterlife. Materialists have a strong explanation for bad NDEs. They point to the fight or flight response. In some people, the process of dying triggers a massive panic attack in the amygdala. If the brain is flooded with fear chemicals instead of endorphins, the hallucinations will naturally turn dark. A bad NDE is simply a bad trip caused by a different chemical cocktail. Furthermore, anesthesia awareness plays a role. Some hellish accounts map perfectly onto the sensation of waking up during surgery feeling paralyzed, hearing mechanical noises, and feeling pain. The mind interprets the surgical team as torturers and the operating room as a torture chamber. The demons might just be the surgeons trying to save their life. Interestingly, the after effects of a hellish NDE are often just as positive as the blissful ones. While the experience is traumatic, it serves as a massive wake-up call. Survivors often completely overhaul their lives. They stop abusing drugs, mend broken relationships, and become more compassionate. They perceive the experience as a warning. If you keep living this way, this is where you are headed. Whether the hell was real or a hallucination, the result is a moral transformation. It forces the individual to confront their shadow and integrate it. In this sense, even the dark experiences serve a function in the growth of the consciousness. A specific subset of distressing NDEs involves suicide attempts. The old religious dogma states that suicide leads straight to hell. NDE research offers a more nuanced view. While many suicide survivors report a gray zone or a feeling of heavy regret, they are rarely judged by the being of light. Instead, they feel a sense of unfinished business. They often report being told that they cannot escape their problems by checking out early. The problems will just wait for them. They are sent back to live out their natural lifespan and solve the puzzle of their life. The message is not, "You are sinner," but "You are quitting the class before the exam is over. You have to go back and finish the test." As we navigate the light and the darkness of the near-death experience, a pattern emerges. It is a journey of learning, reflection, and return. But if consciousness survives death, where does it go permanently? And more importantly, where did it come from before we were born? This leads us to the final frontier of our investigation: pre-birth memories and reincarnation. Are the children who remember choosing their parents describing the same lobby that the NDE survivors visit? In the next chapter, we will connect the exit door of death to the entrance door of birth, completing the circle of the soul. If consciousness survives death, does it stay in the light forever? Evidence suggests otherwise. While NDEs show us the exit door, a different field of study shows us the re-entry door. This is the study of reincarnation. For decades, this was dismissed as religious superstition. But at the University of Virginia, the Division of Perceptual Studies has collected over 2,500 cases of children who renumber previous lives with verifiable accuracy. These are not vague stories. These children, usually between the ages of 2 and 5, provide specific names, locations, and details of how they died. Dr. Ian Stevenson, the pioneer of this research, spent 40 years traveling the world to verify these claims. In many cases, he found the deceased person the child claimed to be, and the details matched perfectly details the child could not possibly have known. The most famous modern case is James Leininger. At age 2, he began having screaming nightmares about a plane crash. He told his parents he was a pilot who flew off a boat called the Natama. He said he was shot down by the Japanese at Iwo Jima and that his friend was Jack Larson. His parents, skeptical Christians, investigated. They found that an aircraft carrier, USS Natoma Bay, existed. A pilot named James Houston Jr. was indeed shot down at Iwo Jima, and a pilot named Jack Larson was on that ship. The toddler knew technical details about World War II aircraft, like drop tanks, that a 2-year-old simply shouldn't know. The statistical probability of guessing these names and facts by chance is virtually zero. Perhaps the most physical evidence comes in the form of birthmarks. Dr. Stevenson cataloged hundreds of cases where children were born with birthmarks or defects that corresponded precisely to the fatal wounds of their previous personality. A child who remembers being shot in the head might be born with a deformity on their skull in their exact entry and exit locations of the bullet. This suggests a mechanism called psychophoresis, the idea that the mind affects the formation of the body. If the consciousness carries the trauma of a violent death, it imprints that trauma onto the developing fetus, scarring the new biological vehicle. It implies that our bodies are not just genetic products, but also spiritual maps of our past history. But why do we come back, and do we have a choice? This brings us to pre-birth memories. Some children describe the intermission, the time between death and rebirth. They describe observing their current parents from a spirit room and choosing them. They often say, "I picked you because you looked nice," or "I had to come back to learn a lesson." This aligns perfectly with the NDE reports of a life review. If the purpose of existence is to learn and grow, one lifetime is not enough. Earth is seen as a school. You don't graduate after one day of class. You come back again and again, in different roles: rich, poor, oppressor, oppressed, until you have learned the curriculum of love and empathy. The question remains, why do we forget? If we lived before, why is the memory wiped? This is known as the veil of forgetfulness. Philosophers argue that the veil is necessary. If you remembered all your past traumas, grudges, and loves, you could not function in this life. You would be paralyzed by the past. To truly learn, you must start with a clean slate. You must make choices without knowing the answers in advance. The veil ensures that your free will is genuine. However, as the cases show, the veil is not perfect. It has holes. And through these holes, we get glimpses of the continuity of our soul, reminding us that death is not the end, but merely a change of clothes. The connection between NDEs and reincarnation creates a complete cycle. The NDE is the departure. Reincarnation is the arrival. They describe the same reality from opposite ends. The being of light in the NDE often tells the experiencer they have work to do. At work is life itself. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. This shift in perspective changes everything. It removes the finality of death. We are travelers on a long journey, and this life is just one day on that trip. As we reach the end of our journey into the unknown, we must synthesize the evidence. The near-death experiences, the verified hallucinations of the dying, the quantum physics of microtubules, and the memories of children, they all point to a single, inescapable conclusion. Consciousness is fundamental. It is not an accidental byproduct of matter. It is the fabric of reality itself. Materialism tells us that the universe is a dead machine that accidentally created life. The evidence we've seen today suggests the opposite. The universe is alive, and we are the eyes through which it perceives itself. Dr. Robert Lanza's theory of biocentrism argues that biology creates reality, not the other way around. Death, therefore, is an illusion created by our consciousness, not an end to it. What happens 7 minutes after you die? The data suggests you do not fade into black, you awaken. You shed the heavy, broken biological suit you have been wearing. You revisit the story of your life with perfect clarity and empathy. You reunite with those you lost. And then you continue. Whether you move on to a higher realm of existence or choose to return to Earth for another lesson, the core you, the observer behind your eyes, remains intact. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. The electricity that powers your thoughts has to go somewhere. It returns to the source. Understanding this removes the greatest fear of humanity, the fear of non-existence. If we know that death is just a transition, a comma rather than a period, we can live differently. We can take risks. We can love without the fear of permanent loss. We can focus on what truly matters: connection, learning, and kindness, knowing that these are the only things we take with us. The skeptics will say this is wishful thinking, and perhaps it is, but the white crow exists. Pam Reynolds existed. The children who remember exist. Science is the pursuit of truth, even when the truth makes us uncomfortable. And the truth seems to be that we are far more than just meat and bones. I want to hear from you. Have you or someone you know ever had an unexplainable experience around death? A vision, a visitation, or a memory? The comments section of this channel is a safe space to share these stories. Your story might be the comfort that someone else desperately needs to hear today. We are building an archive of the unknown here. If this documentary opened a door in your mind, please consider subscribing and joining our community of explorers. We don't just tell stories. We question reality. From the operating table to the tunnel of light, from the quantum structures of our cells to the memories of children, we have looked into the abyss, and the abyss looked back not with darkness, but with light. Thank you for walking this path with me. Keep asking questions. Keep seeking the light. And remember, death is not the opposite of life. It is just a part of it. This is Nightlight Science Stories. Good night, and see you on the other side.